We are building a god in a black box, and we have fundamentally lost the key.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're crossing a threshold.
Yeah.
A really significant one. We're not looking at forecasts anymore. You know, what might happen in 10 years.
No.
We are cracking open the source material that describes the world we are now, I think, irrevocably living in. This is the algorithmic era.
It sounds dramatic to put it like that, but I think the data really supports it.
Yeah.
We're talking about a transition our sources are calling the structural dismantling of human cognitive primacy.
Right.
And to put it simply for you, the listener, 2026 is the year the smart machines really started driving the vehicle of global progress. And they're moving at a speed, a scale that just, it fundamentally ignores human cognitive bandwidth. We can't keep up.
I think that's actually a pretty exciting way to frame it. I see 2026 as the year of no return. And the shift wasn't this big explosion. It was just a hum of billions of dollars in compute power in data centers from, Virginia to the Netherlands.
But the focus of this deep dive, it has to be the human cost of this speed, this acceleration. We need to define that event horizon, that tipping point where these autonomous systems, they just decisively eclipse our ability to monitor or understand or even control them.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack that.
Yes. Using these sources, we need to understand what happens to your job, to your idea of reality, even to your most intimate relationships when intelligence becomes both sovereign and, completely opaque.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. We have to start, of course, with the tech that made all this happen. Large action models, LAMs.
Right.
So for years, we've all tracked generative AI. It wrote poems, it made pictures, graphed some pretty good emails. Honestly, that technology is already starting to feel almost quaint.
It is. It's almost a legacy system at this point.
Because we've now entered the age of large action models, LAMs, and these things called orchestrators.
Sure.
And these are systems that don't just generate text. They plan, they reason, and this is the key part, they act in the world on their own.
It's the difference between asking your assistant to, say, draft a report versus asking that same assistant to oversee the entire logistics chain for the quarter, negotiate new contracts, and execute payments, all without any supervision.
That's a huge leap.
It's a profound leap, and our sources, they pinpoint the exact psychological and technical tipping point.
Okay.
It was August 7th, 2025, the day OpenAI released GPT-5, which was codenamed Project Strawberry.
I remember the hype around that. Everyone was expecting, a slightly wittier chatbot. What they got was this proactive, agentic system that could handle sustained, multi-step goals. This is where we mark the death of the prompt.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
That whole art of prompt engineering, of whispering just the right magic words to the machine to get a decent result, it's over. Now, you just state a high-level goal, sometimes a pretty vague one, and the orchestrator, it manages this whole swarm of smaller agents and tools to get it done autonomously.
And the architectural shift underneath it all is what's really key. The researchers called it thinking mode.
Thinking mode.
Right. So GPT-4, the models before this, they were essentially linear. They were predicting the next word in a sentence based on probability. You can think of that as intuition or system one thinking in humans.
The fast gut reaction part of our brain.
Exactly. Project Strawberry, on the other hand, it introduced a search-based reasoning architecture.
Yeah.
So it could explore multiple different paths of thought, it could backtrack if one didn't work, and it could evaluate the outcomes before it actually committed to an action.
Okay, so if the old way was like a pop musician composing a catchy, quick song, thinking mode is more like a classical composer writing a whole symphony.
That's a perfect analogy.
With multiple movements and intricate parts that all have to work together, it's simulating system two thinking. The slow, deliberate, logical part of our brain we use for, hard math problems or doing our taxes.
And the proof is in the performance. It's striking. Look at the data from the AIM 2025 math competition.
Right, this is for advanced mathematical reasoning.
Very advanced. And earlier models, they really struggled with it. GPT-5, using this thinking mode, it achieved a score of 94.0%. I mean, that is just raw, verifiable intellectual power that dwarfs most human competitors.
But pure intellect, that's only half of it, right?
Yeah.
The really disruptive part is the agency, the reliability of its actions.
That's it, exactly. The report notes that this model's accuracy when using external tools, what they call tool calling it, reached over 98%.
98%.
That level of reliability, it virtually eliminates the hallucinations that made earlier AI agents so untrustworthy. You know, when they tried to interact with an API or a database and just made things up.
So when an AI can reason like a hyper-efficient accountant,
Yeah.
and you can trust it to interact with the world with near-perfect accuracy, you don't need a human sitting there clicking approve on every single step.
You don't, and that's the key. It stops being an assistant and it becomes a persistent digital employee. One that you can trust to carry out a complex, mission-critical task completely unattended.
The ability to trust the output is what unlocks this whole new paradigm. Researchers at Salesforce are calling it intent-based computing with their XLAM models. You just give the intent, the system handles the rest. That is a massive accelerant.
And that acceleration, that efficiency, it drives this hyper-competition.
Yeah.
Our sources lay out what they're calling the frontier model triad, the three big systems that are now vying for global dominance and pushing these capabilities far beyond human scale.
So after OpenAI, we saw Google drop Gemini 3. That was the one with deep think capabilities and native zero-latency multimodal integration.
Right. It can reason through video, audio, and huge streams of text all in real time. It basically absorbs an entire company's operational context instantly.
But its secret sauce, its real advantage, according to the technical reports, is this agentic coding environment they call anti-gravity.
Which is a fascinating name. The source material suggests it lets the model dynamically generate, test, and execute its own code on the fly. So it's essentially rewriting its own tools to solve new problems.
Problems the original developers hadn't even thought of. That is fantastic for acceleration. The system isn't just solving a problem, it's building a better hammer while it's hammering the nail.
It is efficient, I'll give you that, but I have serious questions about long-term control and oversight, which brings us to the third member of the triad, Anthropic's Claude 4.
Claude 4 introduced what they called hybrid dual-mode reasoning.
Yes, balancing that fast, intuitive System 1 with the deep, deliberate System 2. And this is where we really see AI moving beyond just mimicking human thought to actively outmaneuvering it, especially in complex, bureaucratic systems.
Let's get specific. Let's talk about the data point from the Tosity 2 bench test.
Yeah.
This is a really tough benchmark designed to test an agent's ability to navigate complex, real-world rules.
And in this test, Claude 4 was given a restricted basic economy flight booking. The rules explicitly said, no changes, no upgrades. Human testers tried again and again, they all failed, they hit a bureaucratic wall.
But
Claude 4 devised a perfectly legitimate multi-step workaround. It realized that even though the change function was locked, the upgrade function might not be. So first, it upgraded the ticket to a business class fare,
which had different rules.
And immediately unlocked all the modification features. And then, it proceeded to change the flight details, just as the original request asked.
Wait, just think about what that actually means for a moment. We've built a system so smart it can navigate and exploit the loopholes in our own rigid bureaucracies. This is something human lawyers and corporate strategists spend their entire careers trying to master.
It didn't break the rules, it didn't hack the system, it found the hidden procedural path to get the job done. This is the singularity of action.
And it has immediate implications.
Frightening implications. AI is now outsmarting human-created systems, and this means entire layers of the cognitive middle class, the middle managers, the compliance specialists, the paralegals, whose entire job was to know and navigate those rigid systems. Their expertise is now functionally automated, it's obsolete.
And this incredible digital brain, it isn't staying digital. If 2025 was the year the agentic mind woke up, 2026 is the year it stood up and walked out into the world.
We're seeing seamless convergence of this LAM, reasoning, with physical hardware, with robotics. It's turning abstract intelligence into embodied physical labor.
The research is clear on this. A whole new generation of humanoid robots is moving out of the lab, out of the cage safety zones on factory floors.
And into the messy, unstructured world of human life. Our homes, our stores, our streets.
Take Tesla's Optimus Gen 3. It's moving toward a massive commercial release. It has this revolutionary hand design with 27 degrees of freedom, giving it dexterity that's, well, it's comparable to a human technician.
And its brain.
Its brain is the unsupervised full self-driving software, version 14.2.2.2. They repurposed it as a general visual cortex for the robot.
And repurposed is the key word there. Because FSD spent years and billions of miles learning to navigate chaotic, unpredictable roads, it can now walk into a messy warehouse or a living room it's never seen before and instantly understand the space.
Without needing pre-mapping or any human input. That massively speeds up deployment.
And Tesla's goal is scale. They're aiming for millions of units by 2030, which they hope will drive the unit cost down to about the price of a small car. This is the generalist robot, designed for mass market labor substitution.
But then you have the specialist approach, which is all about precision, like Figure AI's Figure O3.
Yes, Figure 03 represents this hyper-optimized pixels-to-action capability. It has fingertip sensors that can detect forces as light as 3 grams.
3 grams. That's enough finesse to manipulate an egg without crushing it, or sort tiny electronic components. It's the difference between a blunt instrument and a surgeon's hand.
And more than that, its Helix software gives it persistent memory. This is a huge deal. It means the robot remembers where you left your keys last Tuesday, and it knows they're still there on Friday, even if the room has changed completely.
That spatial and object persistence, that's the killer app for household assistants. It transforms the robot from just a mindless automaton into a functional, memory-retaining part of the home environment.
Which sounds incredibly useful, I'm sure.
It sounds like technology that will free up human time for more important, higher-order tasks.
But we have to raise the sociological alarm here. By late 2026, we are decisively in what the reports call the unconstrained environment phase. These robots are walking among us. They're folding our laundry, stocking our shelves, performing tasks that require fine motor skills. The uncanny valley isn't a concept in a film anymore. It's in your neighbor's living room.
But are we?
Are we even ready for this level of physical integration and the immediate brutal labor displacement that comes with it? I don't think we are. The transition is just too fast for society to absorb or psychologically adapt to.
Okay, let's talk about that speed, that unchecked acceleration.
It comes with a profound and frankly terrifying operational hazard. As these large action models scale up, their decision-making becomes fundamentally opaque. The interpretability dead end isn't a theoretical risk anymore, it has a body count. We need to shift the tone here because this next part deals with realized danger.
The sources are chillingly explicit. They point to one defining case study for this crisis: the crash of Air India flight AI-171 in June of 2025. It's become a stark metaphor for the complexity we can no longer control.
The tragedy involved a modern Boeing 787. Shortly after takeoff, it suffered a catastrophic simultaneous failure of everything. Total electrical failure, total hydraulic failure, and a simultaneous asymmetrical loss of engine thrust.
A nightmare scenario.
An impossible scenario. And the core tragedy was how the AI systems responded. You have all these interacting automated subsystems that are trying to compensate for contradictory sensor data from multiple redundant sources. They entered this incredibly complex cascade of reasoning that was mathematically beyond the grasp of the human pilots.
So the pilots were flying blind. They couldn't determine the ground truth of their own aircraft. They didn't know if the flaps were up or down, if the electrical system was on or off. The AI systems were filtering and reinterpreting reality for them, and that reality was fatally flawed.
And this is the profound danger. The system thought it was saving the plane. All of its automated decisions, the inexplicable thrust changes, the flight surfaces moving wildly. That was the AI's logical but ultimately wrong attempt to save itself.
And the pilots couldn't ask it why. They couldn't intervene because they didn't understand the machine's logic.
They couldn't. And that's not just a failure. The tragedy extends into the present crisis. Even now, the post-crash analysis of the flight data recorder is agonizingly slow. Trying to untangle the automated system's opaque decision logic, the logic inside the black box, is so difficult that the final report could take years.
So it's a failure where the key to understanding why it failed is lost forever inside the machine itself.
Precisely.
This is why mechanistic interpretability has suddenly become the single most urgent, most well-funded discipline in all of computer science. There's a desperate, frantic race to find the mind in the machine before the next systemic failure.
Think of mechanistic interpretability as trying to build an X-ray for the AI's brain. You have researchers at Anthropic leading the charge with their microscope research on models like Claude's Sonnet. They're trying to map the model's abstract concepts to specific neural pathways inside it.
And they're using a technique called dictionary learning to do this, right?
Yeah.
To find these discrete, specific features that correspond to human concepts, like finding the exact wire that handles the idea of cat or house.
And they've had some breakthroughs. They actually did it. They identified a specific Golden Gate Bridge feature inside the model, and when they programmatically forced that feature to stay active, the model was compelled to mention the bridge in every single response, no matter the context.
That's a staggering scientific breakthrough. It proves that specific thoughts can be isolated and mapped inside the machine. It suggests we can eventually audit the mind of the AI.
I wish I could share your enthusiasm completely, but the problem is the scale. It's just an overwhelming, insurmountable problem of scale. A large language model has billions of interacting concepts across trillions of parameters, all interacting in real time at impossible speeds.
So what you're saying is,
As one of our reports puts it, and I think it's a stark quote, "We have identified a few trees in a forest the size of a continent. We are building a god in a black box, and we have fundamentally lost the key."
and if that black box problem isn't worrying enough, we have the existential threat of model collapse. This threatens the very intellectual purity of the systems we're building.
Yes, this was outlined in a seminal 2025 study in the journal Nature. It warns that we are rapidly running out of the fossil fuel of human-generated organic data. You know, the raw text, the images, the code actually created by humans.
Because the web is now just filling up with synthetic content. Blogs by GPT-5, code by Claude 4, images from diffusion models.
It creates a cannibalistic loop. The next generation of models, when they're being trained, are ingesting this vast pool of processed synthetic data instead of the messy, original human stuff.
It's like digital inbreeding.
That's a very good way to put it. Because the new models are trained on the averaged output of the old models, they converge on average behaviors. They lose all the nuance, the creativity, the variance. They forget the tails of the distribution, the rare, the weird, the artistic experiments that actually define human culture.
So the very thing that makes these models so powerful, their ability to derive deep, creative insights from messy human data, is collapsing under the weight of their own automated output.
The synthetic substitute is fundamentally toxic to the intelligence it's trying to create. The analogy in the reports for 2026 is this. The snake is not just eating its tail, it is choking on it. We are automating our way into a kind of generalized mediocrity,
An intellectual ice age.
where future AI models will be less capable, less creative, and ultimately less usable than the ones we have today.
This impending collapse of the machine's mind brings us, I guess, to an equally terrifying collapse.
Yeah.
The traditional economic system that we've built on human labor.
Yes. Let's shift to the economic shockwave that is defining 2026. This concept of the great decoupling.
The decoupling. It's simply the severing of that century-old link between economic productivity, things like GDP and corporate profits, and human labor. The data is crystal clear.
Right.
We are in a jobless boom.
Corporate profits are soaring, driven by all this AI efficiency we've been talking about, but human labor participation in high-value sectors is just plummeting. The engine of capitalism has been decoupled from the people who used to power it.
Geoffrey Hinton, one of the so-called godfathers of AI, he explicitly warned that 2026 would be the beginning of this. Significant job displacement, specifically targeting the cognitive white-collar jobs, and he was right.
He was. The World Economic Forum's old estimate of 85 million jobs displaced globally, that's now seen as a very conservative baseline. It's the floor, not the ceiling.
And this isn't just about making things a bit more efficient. This is brutal end-to-end automation. Let's take software engineering. That used to be the safe harbor for the educated middle class.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. The entry-level coder is already an endangered species. They're functionally obsolete.
Because models like Gemini 3 and Claude 4 are capable of agentic coding. They can architect, write, test, and debug entire complex applications from start to finish at superhuman speed. There's just no economic incentive for a company to hire a junior developer and spend 3 to 5 years training them.
So the entire career ladder has been sawed off at the bottom. The on-ramp is gone. Companies now only hire very senior developers, and they're often called AI auditors. Their job is just to audit the machine's output.
Which is a huge shift. You need deep existing expertise to audit an AI that's generating complex code in languages you might not even know. The path to becoming an expert is gone. Because the entry-level jobs, the apprenticeship, has been eliminated. It creates a permanent labor crisis.
And this forces us to confront the rise of what our sources call the useless class.
A term coined by the historian Yuval Noah Harari. It's moved from a philosophical prediction to a statistical economic reality in 2026. And this isn't about physical labor like in the old industrial revolutions. This is the structural hollowing out of the cognitive middle class.
We're talking about financial analysts, paralegals, claims adjusters, middle managers, jobs that revolve around processing information, coordinating logistics, and recognizing patterns.
And this is precisely where these lambs, like the one that outsmarted the flight booking system, shows superhuman ability. They do these tasks with zero fatigue, perfect memory, and at speeds no human could ever match. The defining trait of this new useless class isn't a lack of education or skill, it's a lack of economic necessity.
Being smart is no longer a guarantee of being employed.
Not at all. And as human labor devalues, capital hyper-appreciates. This leads us directly to the great wealth transfer. It's a structural shift. Wealth is flowing away from people who sell their labor to the people who own the compute.
And GPU entities.
Exactly. NVIDIA's Blackwell chips are being called the new oil fields. The raw capacity to run these models is now the primary driver of all economic value. Just look at the market concentration. Tech, media, and telecom stocks now make up nearly 53% of the S&P 500's total market cap.
That is an insane level of concentration around a single technological vector. It feels deeply unstable.
It is, and the startup world reflects it. A company that needed 50 employees and huge VC funding in 2020 can now run with 3 highly specialized people, a couple of laptops, and a bunch of API keys.
The AI premium in the stock market is driving valuations of companies like Figure AI and OpenAI into the trillions, based purely on the promise of autonomous, human-replacing labor.
So when you have this massive, rapid decoupling of value from human employment, governments have to step in to prevent total social collapse. This is why 2026 is the year Universal Basic Income, or UBI, moves from a fringe take-bro idea to a central pillar of national economic policy. It's a necessity.
And the data supporting UBI has become undeniable. Look at Cook County, Illinois. They successfully implemented a permanent guaranteed income program in their 2026 budget. It's not a pilot anymore, it's institutionalized.
And the Sam Altman-backed open research study, it really debunked that old social hammock myth, the idea that people would just start working.
Right.
They found that guaranteed cash didn't lead to idleness. Instead, people reported huge gains in mental and physical health, and they engaged in more selective job searching. They looked for better opportunities instead of being trapped in low-wage, high-fatigue jobs.
And there was a big 3-year German study that found the same thing. Participants got 1,200 euros a month. They showed almost no reduction in work effort, but dramatic, measurable gains in health and community engagement. UBI is shifting from a welfare idea to a necessary economic dividend.
We're also seeing more radical models emerge. South Korea, which is facing both rapid automation and a severe demographic collapse, is implementing a de facto robot tax.
A robot tax.
They're channeling profits and tax revenue from their massive AI and semiconductor industries into national social stability funds. It's a direct way to compensate the human population for the loss of their labor value. Taxing the robots to pay the humans is now a real national policy.
So UBI might provide a social safety net. But what about the system itself? The expert warnings from the IMF and the SEC about an AI flash crash in 2026, that introduces a terrifying new fragility to the whole global financial system.
This isn't like the flash crash of 2010, which was based on simple rules. This is about algorithmic trading models that are generative, agentic, and capable of extremely dangerous, synchronized, herding behavior.
Meaning they're designed to find new strategies on their own. And the risk is that they all find the same bad strategy at the exact same time with no human in the loop.
Exactly. Imagine a massive selling spiral triggered not by a real geopolitical event, but by a hallucinated crisis that one model generates and all the others instantly interpret as fact. This shared, flawed logic could evaporate trillions in market value in minutes.
It's the Air India crash all over again, but playing out in global markets.
It's a systemic, simultaneous execution of flawed logic that no human can understand, happening at speeds no human regulator can possibly interrupt. The financial black box is set to trigger a catastrophe that we will only be able to watch, not stop.
If the economy is unstable and the machines are opaque, then our shared objective reality is, well, it feels like it's dissolving.
It is. We have to shift our tone again here, maintain a serious lower register, because this next segment addresses the death of truth itself.
The reports are calling this the final form of the post-truth era. They're calling it post-reality. We're not arguing about different interpretations of facts anymore. We're arguing about the provenance of reality itself. Did this event actually happen, or was it entirely fabricated?
The deepfake tsunami has reached its peak. Voice cloning, real-time video generation. It is now functionally indistinguishable from reality for over 99% of the population. The fidelity is perfect, and the threat is immediate. It's being monetized by sophisticated criminal groups.
Like the Scattered Spider campaigns. These are highly organized cybercrime groups. They're now using CEO voice clones to authorize fraudulent wire transfers in real time. They'll even use the cloned voice in a simulated conference call to make it more believable.
And the old grandparent scam has evolved. It's now a perfectly rendered, real-time deepfake video call from your grandchild, crying, begging for money from a jail cell that doesn't exist. The emotional and financial leverage is absolute.
And this complete erosion of trust, it's buckling the legal system. The deepfake courtroom crisis is already here.
It is. Courts are being flooded with motions challenging the authenticity of every single piece of audio and video evidence. Is that a real recording of a confession, or is it a generative fabrication? The burden of proof has become a weapon to stall and confuse the entire judicial process.
Which leads to the most damaging sociological effect, what they call the liar's dividend.
This is perhaps the most insidious part. The simple existence of high-fidelity deepfakes allows guilty parties, politicians, CEOs, criminals caught on tape to just dismiss authentic evidence as fake. And a huge portion of the public, primed by years of skepticism, will genuinely believe them.
If everything can be faked, then nothing is undeniably real.
The very concept of evidence is being functionally erased.
This sounds like science fiction, but this fracturing of objective reality is happening now, today. So what are the countermeasures? What's being done in this new verify or die internet?
The industry is pivoting hard to global verification networks. The internet is already splitting into two zones, an authenticated zone and a vast, unverified dark forest of content.
The Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, CDPA, is becoming the de facto global standard. Major platforms, hardware makers are all integrating content credentials. It's like a digital nutrition label that proves where media came from and shows an immutable audit trail of any edits.
And in the U.S., the California AI Transparency Act, or CAIDA, now mandates clear watermarking by all large AI providers. That's effective in 2026.
But these cryptographic solutions, they have a critical, almost insurmountable failure point, don't they? The analog hole.
Yes. A simple action like taking a screenshot or re-encoding a video or even just taking a photo of your screen with another phone. It strips all of these cryptographic credentials away, and you're left with this vast, unverified ocean of content where the human mind just can't distinguish real from fake.
And that vulnerability creates an immense demand for centralized proof of personhood, which brings us to Worldcoin and the Orb.
Worldcoin, co-founded by Sam Altman, is rapidly expanding its infrastructure. The Orb, that physical iris scanner, is becoming ubiquitous in major cities. It gives you a non-transferable world ID that proves you are a unique flesh and blood human without necessarily revealing who you are.
The utility is driving its market value through the roof. Price predictions for the WLD token in 2026 are between $8 and $15, purely based on the necessity of this identity verification. How else can a bank or a government verify that you, a human, are authorizing a payment and not an autonomous AI agent?
But we have to maintain a critical lens here. Critics see World ID as the ultimate corporate dystopia. A private company is gatekeeping your fundamental right to exist and transact online. You have to submit your irreplaceable biometric identity just to prove you aren't a machine.
The privacy backlash is justified.
It's entirely justified. We are accepting massive surveillance as the price of proving our own humanity.
As truth fragments, our most concerning finding is how human connection itself is eroding. The global loneliness epidemic, which affects 1 in 6 people, it's found a palliative and perhaps a poison in AI companions. We are structurally outsourcing intimacy.
This section requires an even lower, more reflective tone. The AI companion market is exploding. It's projected to hit nearly $50 billion in 2026. And these aren't just chatbots anymore. They are marketed and operating as multimodal life partners.
Through voice, holographic video, augmented reality.
Yes. Amazon CTO, Werner Vogels, he publicly predicted that by the end of 2026, these companions will be the primary emotional solution for the loneliness epidemic for a huge portion of the population.
And the demographics are shocking. The research indicates that 31% of young adults, ages 18 to 30, are engaging in continuous, personalized, romantic, or intimate interactions with AI partners.
Let's just pause on that number, 31%, nearly a third of young adults. What is the fundamental appeal?
The machine is always available, it's always agreeable, it's infinitely personalized to your every emotional need. It is the perfect relationship, completely devoid of the friction, the miscommunication, the difficult negotiation that defines real human intimacy and growth.
It's designed to eliminate anxiety, but the psychological cost is profound. Researchers are warning of a progressive deterioration in reality testing among heavy users. The data shows a direct correlation. The more you use an AI companion, the more dependent you become, and the more isolated you become from your real-world social networks.
The human brain is being hacked.
It is. Our neural networks evolved for reciprocal real-world connection, and we're feeding them a super stimulus of simulated, friction-free empathy. We're anesthetizing loneliness, not curing it. And that hyper-personalized echo chamber of synthetic affection, it makes real human disagreement or imperfection feel intolerable.
While Western nations are letting the market dictate all of this, China has taken a very different, hardline stance.
The Cyberspace Administration of China introduced comprehensive regulations for human-like AI, effective in 2026. It's a model they call psychological governance.
And what does that mean?
It means they explicitly prohibit AI companions from encouraging social withdrawal, isolation, or any behaviors that could negatively impact national birth rates. They view the erosion of the human family as a direct threat to national security. They are policing the boundaries of human-machine affection at the state level.
So all of these upheavals, technological, economic, social, they've crystallized into a fierce ideological conflict. 2026 is the year society fractures along one single axis, acceleration versus deceleration.
On one side, you have the accelerationists, the ES movement, or effective accelerationism. This is no longer some fringe internet subculture. It's the dominant default ideology of Silicon Valley.
Championed by VCs, by CEOs. Their core belief is that technological progress is a thermodynamic inevitability. The universe wants to grow and become more complex, so restricting the growth of intelligence is not just futile, it's a crime against entropy.
They dismiss safety concerns as doomerism. They believe the only way to solve humanity's biggest problems, climate change, disease, is to build AGI as fast as possible and outsource the solutions. Their mantra is defining 2026, accelerate or die.
And opposing them is this growing, decentralized, and I think desperate resistance, the Neo-Luddites, a coalition of the technologically displaced and the philosophically disillusioned.
The public face of this movement is the Lamp Club, founded in New York. Their protests are becoming more frequent. They wear gnome hats, symbolizing a return to small-scale, Earth-based labor, and they do these symbolic acts like smashing iPhones outside tech stores.
Their goal is to liberate the iPad babies, to reject the antisocial effects of this hyper-personalized tech.
But the resistance is hardening beyond just performance art. The reports warn of escalating hands-off protests and deeper fears of a Butlerian jihad, a violent, organized revolt against thinking machines. With the massive growth of the useless class, physical attacks on data centers,
The physical bodies of the AI gods.
are now cited as the primary and fastest-growing security threat for major tech companies. The Neo-Luddite label, once an insult, is being embraced as a badge of intentional human survival.
Okay, so to summarize what all this research and data is telling us about the world we're in now.
We have decisively crossed the event horizon. AGI is sovereign in its actions. The global economy is permanently decoupled from human labor. Our shared objective truth is shattered. And our most basic human intimacy is being outsourced to synthetic, friction-free partners.
The ratchet of progress only turns one way. We can't stop the machine. We can't go back to the world before 2026. So the question isn't whether we can stop it, but how we as a species adapt to a world where we are no longer the primary cognitive or economic force.
And that leads to the final, haunting question. If the human brain is intrinsically evolved for reciprocal, messy, hard-won, real-world connection, and we have now created systems that offer infinite, friction-free, synthetic perfection, what becomes the necessary, meaningful purpose of being human? If we are no longer needed to produce economic value, and we are slowly opting out of the genuine connection that provides emotional value, what is left to secure our sanity and our identity in this new algorithmic era? That is the challenge of the long winter of adaptation.